Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. I just want to talk a little bit in this video about why I think CES is going to be great for Aptera, or why it's actually very important for Aptera. So we know that Aptera has announced that they're going to be at CES. CES is January 7th through January 10th in 2025 in Las Vegas. And so there's two reasons why I think this is important. One is the coverage. So CES is very well attended. So we looked at these numbers a little bit before, but we'll delve into it a little bit more. What we have is you have about 80,000 people that are attending, that are part of the industry, and many of those will be us going. And then we have 5,355 media representatives, and I'm actually going as media this time. And total verified attendance is 138,789. Now that's down from, I think their peak was before the pandemic in 2019. They were up to like 180,000. I expect that 2025 will be more than this because it's been climbing every year since they restarted it after the pandemic. And then you see what kind of people are there. A large percentage are C-suite level executives and senior level executives. So that's a large portion of who shows up here. Of course, you get lots of international attendance, mostly from Asia, and surprisingly, the most, or maybe unsurprisingly, the most common country is after the U.S. is South Korea. So U.S. attendees is about 82,000, and South Korea is about 16,000. Here's a big list of the speakers. It's basically a who's who. What was more interesting to me was looking at what kind of media coverage that they get. And if you look, oh yeah, this was also very interesting to me. There is a lot of, there's a decent amount of governmental representation here, and that might be good for Aptera when thinking about things like the ATVM loan, EV credits. Now we know that the EV credits could go away under the Trump administration, and then there's some talk in California, at least, of Newsom reinstating the EV credits for California residents, at least. Now, this actually could help Aptera, ironically, because Aptera did not qualify for the federal EV credit because it's a three-wheeled vehicle, and so if when Aptera is produced, it would not qualify for the 7,500, even if it did meet the battery requirements because it has three wheels. And so it put Aptera at a disadvantage because every other car would get $7,500 off that met those requirements, and Aptera could not. So Aptera would be at a price disadvantage because they would not receive that kind of government subsidy. Now, if California reinstates it, it's possible, since Aptera is a California company, the lobbying would be a little bit easier, and that Aptera could be included. And if Aptera got a $7,000 rebate within California, and most of the sales are going to be in California, at least initially, I think at least for the next, foresee like next several years, 2-3 years, most of them are going to be California sales. That could really help Aptera. Now, having the EV credit go away completely, and then having the federal credit also go away, that actually might help Aptera as well, because now all the other kind of entry-level cars, like, like let's say the Chevy Volt, the Model 3, those kinds of things, they become $7,000 more expensive than they were previously, and Aptera would stay the same price. So it becomes a little bit more price competitive. So anyways, government representation at CES is gonna be helpful for people in government to see the Aptera, be exposed to it. And the thing is my guess, and I want to hear what you guys thought in the comments below is I think about 5% of the population has heard of the Aptera. My guess is 95% of the population has never heard of the Aptera. So that's a pretty big segment of the population that has never heard of it. Now, let's compare that to like Lucid. I'm gonna guess maybe 20% of the population or 30% of the population has heard of Lucid. And if Aptera could get to that level of exposure, that's like a 600% increase. So from 5% to 30%. Now, these are totally made up numbers. I have no idea. I couldn't find any polling data on like the general population of who's heard of Lucid and who's familiar with Lucid versus Aptera or Rivian. I mean, Tesla, I'm pretty sure the majority of the population has heard of Tesla, 90% or more has heard of Tesla. Um, so this having that kind of exposure is going to be good for Aptera. So like media coverage, look at these names of media outlets that are covering now. Some of these I don't know, but I've heard of obviously Al Jazeera, Android Authority, Auto Week, Associated Press, Automotive News, Automotive World, Axios, Barron's, Bloomberg, it, Business Insider, Car and Driver, CBS. Yeah, like these are all the all the major news outlets are gonna be at CES. They're all there, so you're gonna get kind of it's like probably one of the best covered trade shows in the world. And then you look at their major partners. You got CNET and Gadget, Korean Economic Daily, Lifehacker, Motor Trend, Politico, PC, etc. So there's going to be quite a bit of media coverage, which is great because I think more exposure brings in possibly more investors. And I think really that's what Aptera needs. They don't need more customers. They got plenty of customers. They need to produce and deliver these vehicles. And in order to do that, they need more investment. And they can't get investment slowly. Like the problem with crowdfunding is generally the the investment kind of trickles in, and that level of investment is enough to keep the lights on and pay the rent and pay their staff, but it's not enough to have extra beyond that because you have kind of like a baseline burn rate, and you have to bring in capital faster than the burn rate in order to buy supplies and tooling. So having $60 million come in 1 week is very useful. Having $60 million come in over 2 years is not very useful because that's going to just contribute to their burn rate. Okay, so that's number one. I think that's the number one important thing. And number two is it gives them a hard deadline. So the deadline is January 7th. They have to have a production intent vehicle built, tested enough to show to the public, and be able to drive over there and set it up by January 7th. So they have exactly 1 month. They have 1 month to do this. And I know that in my line of work, there's conferences that I go to, and if I've submitted something to present there, I'm gonna work extra hard before that conference to make sure my stuff is done. If I have a project that I don't have a external deadline for, I kind of pitter around and I don't. I try to work on it faster, but it's different having an external deadline. Like so, when I know that I have to be at a conference and present something, I know I'm gonna work to get that thing done and be ready by then. Like it just lights a fire under you. And that's what it's going to do for Aptera. And I think that's really good because, it's very easy to kind of miss deadlines when it's your own internal deadline, but you cannot miss an external deadline. So that's I think the two very important things. So I'm like there are many deadlines which I was kind of dubious about, but after saying they're going to be at CES, I'm like very sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm very sure that they're going to have a production intent vehicle ready and on display at CES because they just have to do it. It's very important to them. Now, our resident curmudgeon, who is very sarcastic and actually pretty insightful, Bill, he mentioned that like Archimoto and Elio were also at CES. So yeah, that's true. Being at CES does not guarantee that you're going to be successful, but other Tesla has been at CES, Lucid has been at CES, Rivian's been at CES, and then lots of other companies like Honda and Toyota and the established companies are also at CES. So CES does not determine whether you're unsuccessful or successful, but all things being equal, it's better to be at CES than not to be at CES. It's better to get more coverage than no coverage. So overall, it's a good thing. But yeah, no, going to CES does not guarantee that it's going to be a success. But successful companies like Tesla and I guess to some extent Rivian and Lucid have been at CES, and less successful companies like Canoe and Archimoto and Elio have also been at CES. So CES is not a guarantee of success or a guarantee of failure one way or the other. But all things being equal, Being at CES is going to be a good thing. If you just look up CES 2024, you can see what kind of videos show up on YouTube. They get these videos about CES get between 200 to 2 million views, and they're just very, people like Undecided with Matt Farrell. I know a lot of you guys watch that. I like this channel as well. And then Engadget, I watch that. I watch CNET. These things and The Verge, they're gonna get coverage, and Aptera is such a eye-catching vehicle. I think people are gonna stop and check it out. The media, if they're not familiar with it, they're gonna see it, they're gonna walk by it, they're gonna wonder what is that thing, and they're gonna want to talk about it. It's very eye-catching, and it makes a good story. So I expect that there's gonna be a lot of media coverage coming out of CES for Aptera. All right, let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of I would like to take a poll. Put in the comments, what percentage of the U.S. population do you think has heard of Aptera versus, say, let's a comparison like Lucid or Rivian. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.